my fellow adventurers. Esper here. I'm with you today to discuss a topic that has been brought up over and over again since the beginning of role-playing games. How do I describe damage in combat? So the supposed problem goes like this. In combat, when a character or a creature takes damage, as long as it's not enough damage to actually kill him, there's no immediate effect. In other words, if your character has 40 total hit points and he takes 30 damage from a berserker's great axe, he doesn't suffer any kind of penalty right away. In fact, he could take 39 damage from a critical hit from that great axe, be reduced to 1 hit point, and he will still function just as well as when he had full hit points. So what's the point of describing attacks and injuries? If I describe that character as taking a devastating chop from the great axe, it seems like there should be some kind of ongoing penalty to his rolls or a wound that handicaps him in some sort of way. But no. Dungeons & Dragons, Pathfinder, and other such role-playing games simply don't favor this kind of realism, at least not in the standard rules of the game. But not describing attacks and damage seems dull, doesn't it? Otherwise, what is it? Just a tactical dice rolling game? Page 197 of the Player's Handbook, 5th edition, describes the following. Dungeon masters describe hit point loss in different ways. When your hit point total is half or more of your hit point maximum, you typically show no signs of injury. When you drop below half your maximum hit points, you show signs of wear, such as cuts and bruises. An attack that reduces you to 0 hit points strikes you directly, leaving a bleeding injury or other trauma, or it simply knocks you unconscious. So, what do you think of that? Personally, I think it is decent, but the issue I have with it is constantly describing how everyone is getting cut, bruised, nicked, scuffed, grazed, clipped, scraped, and so on. Fights become these weird matches of wearing each other down with glancing blows. And this part of the game seems to get even more problematic at higher levels when everyone has more hit points. Having DM'd several campaigns in 3rd, 4th, and 5th edition, let me tell you that this kind of constant description gets tedious. So, let me tell you my perspective and technique. Hopefully it'll help you. I keep combat flowing fast and with a sense of urgency, and I do not describe every attack and every damage roll. With many attacks, I quickly note the change in hit points and just keep things moving. Only certain attacks will get a description. Usually this is either a unique or special attack, or when the character does something out of the ordinary, if there's some kind of magical effect, or when attacks are at crucial moments, life and death situations. But doesn't the game feel dull and mechanical without describing every attack and damage? In the case of my games, not at all. There are 2 main reasons for this. The first is that the combat simply flows faster, and I try to keep a sense of tension and urgency in my voice. The second is that I voice the reactions and the emotions of the NPCs and the monster. So, listen to this comparison, for example. You swing your morning star and it crashes into the enemy's shoulder. He is left bruised, but he's still in the fight. Or, damn you! So the first option is definitely good, but if you say something like this all the time, fight after fight, adventure after adventure, month after month, it can get tedious and it loses its effect over time. The second option expresses more in 3 simple words than the first one does. It has feeling to it, and it shows that the opponent is going through some pain and frustration. You could even leave out the damn you and just keep the grunt. Then, when the moment comes that the opponent is reduced to 0 hit points, give it a satisfying description, or even let the player describe the killing blow. Also, bear in mind that many opponents will not fight to the death. A zombie or a golem will just mindlessly attack until it's destroyed, but most intelligent or even just animalistic combatants would rather escape than die. A character or a creature that has only 25% or even 10% of its hit points remaining should feel an imminent sense of life-threatening peril. It's natural survival instinct. Perhaps the subject will look worn down or have some minor wounds. There's nothing wrong with these kinds of descriptions as long as you don't bog the game down with them. The wounded wolf snarls in pain, or he yelps and then he tries to flee. The bandit who assaulted the wrong target and got injured will try to sprint away to safety. In combat, I try to keep things moving, and I even go so far as to prompt players. If someone is thinking too much on his turn, I may say, "You're in the heat of battle, act quickly." If he delays, then his character delays. Let the next player or enemy take their turn, then go back to the hesitating character. Battle should have feeling to it, even a bit of chaos. Simply put, I use descriptions of damage only when it matters the most. I do not treat hit points as literal health or some kind of life gauge. Hit points are an abstraction that represents how hard a creature is to kill. We have things like physical toughness, combat experience, endurance, willpower, focus, luck, and maneuvering. These are all factors that play into this. When two creatures are attacking and dealing damage to each other, they're fighting. Simple as that. Getting into the nitty-gritty of every single attack is ridiculous. It gets even more ridiculous when it comes to attacks with weapons like bows and arrows. What, is your master archer always just grazing and clipping all the enemies until he wears them down and finally lands a decent shot? Get out of the bog of overthinking. The archer is firing at his target, trying his best to bring it down. Until a crucial moment occurs, that's all we need to know. Imagine that enemy berserker when he scores a critical hit with his great axe against the petite little wizard who's wearing merely a cloth robe. And with this hit, the enemy reduces the player character to 1 hit point. What then? Yeah, some description is probably warranted. It would be great if the player would just shriek in pain, but that might be expecting too much from some players. So, try saying something like this. A tremendous blow, your life flashes before your eyes. Pain and blood, you feel the end is near. The enemy has nearly slain you. It's better to give an intense feeling than to try to rack your brain over the perfect description. Of course, the Dungeon Master's Guide doesn't give this kind of advice. While it is a great book full of essential information, it always seems to fall short of teaching you how to actually make your game good. I essentially work out most things through trial and error and through good old observation. I am working slowly but surely on my Novara campaign setting, which does include this kind of advice, and the injury system that I utilize, as well as many of the other unique aspects of Novara, which aim for a deeper role-playing experience. If you like the sound of this, head over to my Patreon page, show me some love. I would be stoked to have the ability to devote more time and energy into this project. Until next time, may your adventures be many.